Great to see all of you, and thank you so much for coming out here. Having Barry as the introducer is always a dream, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about augmented reality and how it can amplify your out-of-home buys and connect with your audience in a totally different way. So I'm Kira Rich. I'm a senior product marketing manager at Google, and I cover our entire augmented reality portfolio. So whether that's products that we're launching for developers and creators so that they can build those experiences, or whether that's connecting with brands, with artists, with NGOs and governments, and bringing some of these experiences closer to people and really having people engage with them. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask any questions about today's presentation, feel free to do so. I'm more than happy to connect and see what possibilities we can build together. So as Barry mentioned, I'll go through 2 different case studies today, and then I'll give a couple of thoughts about the future of augmented reality and out of home and where we're going as an industry. So first, let's kick it off with how Space Invaders took over New York. So this project is really near and dear to my heart. Hopefully many of you know the iconic arcade game Space Invaders, and we got a huge task working with the developer of Space Invaders, Taito. They were celebrating their 45th year anniversary, and they literally wanted to free Space Invaders from the offline arcade machines into the world globally and have them be around attacking different cities and people defending the Earth in their own neighborhoods in augmented reality. So we partnered with Unit 9, our amazing production studio, as well as Outfront to launch this campaign to celebrate Space Invaders in a new age. And the key insight that we wanted to bring here is that Space Invaders is such a beloved IP, especially for older generations who now have their own kits. And so we really wanted to encourage this connectivity tissue between grandparents and parents with their own 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds and further to actually experience the game in a totally different way. And we know that a lot of these stories around gaming, they truly happen between parents sharing their passions or friends sharing their passions. So augmented reality was key for this experience to bring people together and have them actually play together and compete against each other. So the tech behind it is the Google's ARCore Geospatial API, which is one of the products that my team is developing. It's an amazing API that allows you to pinpoint with sub-meter accuracy where you are in the world, and then your camera feed is able to localize you and insert digital or 3D objects, as you can see, right in front of you so that they are accurate to the location they are in. They can interact with the buildings around you, hiding behind objects, or, for example, react to the weather that is in your location. The Geospatial API is available in over 100 countries. any area that we have mapped with Google Street View is available for developers and creators to build these augmented reality experiences completely remotely. And so what you can see on the screen is me playing Space Invaders in my neighborhood in Williamsburg, or also if you don't have access in your country to the Geospatial API, we created the 3D version of the game so that anyone, anywhere could play and be part of it. So the way that we saw out of home as a really integral part of this campaign is across 3 different moments of the campaign. So often we think of out of home as the moment during launch, or really that specific radius or the specific neighborhood when you want to send your message to that audience that happens to be there at the right time and happens to look up and see your message. But we really rethought out of home together with Outfront to think about how we can tease the launch of the game, then actually launch it and have people engage and participate during the launch, and then amplify it further with an in-person event in Times Square. So first, during the tease, we used out of home to drive brand awareness. And not only that, but the anticipation that Space Invaders were literally coming to New York to take over the city, and you were going to join a world defense force to defend your city from them. So as you can see, we had hyper-localized out-of-home units that were bringing attention to the countdown of when the game is launching. And we had really big QR codes as well for people to be able to engage and literally join on the fun and join the game as soon as they wanted to. So then on launch day, we drove QR scans and actual downloads for the play so that real-time gameplay would happen immediately as the game was available in the App Store on iOS or the Google Play Store on Android phones. And what we saw is just amazing amplification after the launch by driving people into Times Square for the in-person event, where people could literally compete against each other and compete within their neighborhoods to see which neighborhood or suburb in New York is best. So tapping into some of those rivalries between Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and so forth. And the other cool thing we've done with the leaderboards at Times Square is that they would, in real time, show your score and how far you got in the game. So you were actually able to also take a social picture or a social capture with your name at Times Square on the leaderboard, really winning against the Space Invaders and generating even more amplification for us across social. The results of this campaign were amazing. We saw almost 5 million targeted impressions during the duration of the campaign, which was about 3 weeks from the tease to launch to amplify. And amazingly, we actually got almost 6,000 QR scans and game downloads, which was 6 times more than the average QR-enabled Outfront ad. So the reason that we think this performed so well is because we gave people a clear message to engage in what was happening in their city. It was relevant to their neighborhood. A lot of the creative that you saw was, taking homage from New York as a true a backdrop for this epic battle that happened at Times Square. And we actually saw driving that engagement even further, especially in transit live boards, where 3,000 scans actually came from the transit live boards, which we strategically placed during dwell times, so not necessarily during rush hour, where you're really competing for attention and people are already stressed and they wouldn't necessarily, want to continue to engage with something. But we looked at the different time periods and placed them when, we see that there's higher dwell time around, some of those transit boards in order to encourage downloads. And as you can see on a unit like this, the QR code is not even that big, so it's not even truly driving the CTA, and yet it was the best performing out-of-home unit. And of course, as I mentioned, social, that was a huge part of the campaign. Within the game, you are able to take a selfie of yourself as the pilot with your score, with the location, and how far you got on the leaderboard. So we saw people posting those during the event and afterwards. as well as just generally posting how they're playing, whether it be on their way to work, that's a post from LinkedIn, or actually on their beach vacation, taking a little much-deserved break from their own family to shoot a couple of Space Invaders in the sky in Cannes. And our social overperformed all of our benchmarks for Google social media, up to 3.5 times in terms of impressions, and really amazing to see the engagements and clicks between 1.8 and 2.5 times engagement above our benchmarks as well. So continuously generating and amplifying what we are doing in the physical space down to the digital space. So overall, this activation, I believe, really worked because of the hyper-localized nature that we tapped into with the physical out-of-home, and then connecting it to the digital actions that we wanted people to take. In this case, downloading the game and playing and representing their neighborhoods and actually wanting to see their name up on the leaderboard. So kind of driving that connective nature between what is your physical activation and then what you actually want people to do digitally, even back to physically, right? Getting them all find their way to Times Square and be there for the event. You know, we saw that smooth synchronization between physical and digital. And that's where we believe augmented reality can actually help amplify that even further. So the second case study that I want to show is a virtual concert that we did last winter for Gorillaz. Let's get into it.
How do you revolutionize the music video format, bringing it closer to fans in a way that has never been done before? Simple. You turn the world's most iconic landmarks into the ultimate stage, an immersive playground for the world's most successful virtual band, Gorillaz. Step inside the Gorillaz Presents experience. Murdoch, Noodle and Russell took over Times Square and Piccadilly Circus for the larger-than-life performance of epic new single Skinny Ape. Using the Google AR Core Geospatial API, we developed a next-generation augmented reality format, bringing fans together and allowing them to step inside a music video, literally. The placement of the AR experience was key, and only possible with Google's Geospatial API. It was designed to work with the architecture at different scales. Rather than focusing on one point of interest, the virtual action surrounding citygoers taking place on top of multiple buildings and billboards. On site, crowds too large to count collectively danced and sang along. While online, Gorillaz Presents amassed more than 3 million views in Gorillaz channels alone, nearly 20,000 downloads in the first week of its launch, as well as global coverage. And this is only the beginning. New York, London, and soon the whole world will be a stage for more immersive music videos. Stay tuned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was an absolutely amazing experience that we got to work on with Gorillaz, the world's first and biggest 3D band. And as you saw, what we did is we bought a lot of the hyper-localized out-of-home units, again, in Times Square and on Piccadilly Lights and Piccadilly Circus in London for the virtual concert. But with augmented reality, we also took over all of the other buildings, so all of the other skyscrapers around you, so that it was a truly blend of digital and physical interaction in that moment. And we drove fans to this one particular event to launch the Skinny Ape, a single from Gorillaz' newest album. But beyond that, for fans who were remote and couldn't make it to those 2 locations, we also took that same augmented reality experience and synced it into an app that you could download. And in your own home, whether it's on your desk, on your coffee table, or stretched out in your entire living room, you could actually experience the same concert in augmented reality and feel like you are there. In fact, we even mapped some of the buildings in Times Square so that you actually feel like you are in Times Square in your own home if you couldn't make it. So this was a really important way for us to drive, again, that interaction between people who come to the event and they want to actually interact not just with the brand that they love, but they want to interact with each other. So we really believe that digital and augmented reality in this case can amplify those physical events, those physical spaces even further, allowing you to engage with your audience in a totally new way and providing them with additional value when it comes to what they want from the brand or from the message. In terms of results, this was, again, a really out-of-the-park execution for us. We saw 50,000 fans download the app to watch the experience either live or remotely. 3 million people actually watched the music video for Skinny Ape remotely, where Gorillaz used a lot of the 3D and augmented reality capture from the event. And to date, more than 10 million people have viewed that experience on YouTube as well. And it continues to be a moment and amass a lot of industry buzz. Insofar as this year we actually won the Gold Lion for this execution, as well as many other awards across the creative industry. And as you see, thank you very much. As you see, it's not just the advertising industry taking notice, but also the creative industry with music and film awards up there as well. So very quickly, I'll touch a little bit on the blending physical and digital and what we can already do today. I know that both of these executions were larger than life, and they really feel, cool and amazing when you see them. But what else can you do as brands today? Well, when you think about augmented reality, we really believe that this technology connects people together. Instead of taking them out into virtual worlds and kind of whisking them away, we think that it's the connective tissue that helps people experience the world around themselves in a deeper and richer way, ultimately making them more connected to their neighborhoods, to each other, and to the things that they love. So we've done a couple other projects, for example, with Gap and Mattel to launch their Barbie-themed clothing collection by taking over the Gap store in New York and literally making an interactive augmented reality shoppable window where you saw Barbie characters coming out and being able to shop the collection straight off of the characters. We also collaborated with street artists in LA, Mexico City, and London, augmenting their street murals into these amazing visualizations and experiences where you could literally step into the art and understand what the vision of the artist was. We collaborated with Singapore to help them navigate people to some of the cultural landmarks in Singapore where they land and help people experience those cultural landmarks in a much more interactive and immersive way. And lastly, we collaborated with Gensler and Dignity Moves on a project that helped communities visualize what housing for the homeless population could look like. There's a lot of these projects being talked about, especially in New York, San Francisco, and other bigger cities, but communities often, are a little bit hesitant to approve these projects because they don't quite understand, how that community will live within their neighborhood. So again, augmented reality really proved that they can bring that experience and help communities visualize it so that they can feel safe and approve those types of experiences for others. So we were really proud of that moment, bringing some of those experiences to life. And ultimately, when we're going with the future, we do see that AR and out-of-home go very hand-to-hand together. Out-of-home amplifies the physical space we are all in, and digital marketing and augmented reality amplifies the digital space that we all occupy. And nowadays, people are as much online as they are offline. So we see a lot of value in the blend of those two mediums. And thinking about out-of-home as not just the upper funnel awareness-generating medium, but really thinking about it as an omni-channel synchronized strategy all the way to your social and all the way to these subsequent moments where you're driving re-engagement with your brand and with your message. And we do think that going deeper into some of these experiences, driving with data the relevancy of that message that can be hyper-local and start with a real human insight, where you're doing a one-to-one storytelling. With augmented reality, you can truly amplify it to something we call omni-channel story showing. And hopefully you've seen a couple of examples of that today. So thank you so much for your attention, and looking forward to connecting with you.